It was good, everybody. It's your boy back again with another video. I want to talk about our COVID-19 situation out here in Sunshine State of Florida and what I believe to be a failed response from our elected officials, from the governor all the way down to our Department of Education secretary. I'm going to show you some graphs. I'm going to talk about the scientist who was told that she had to manipulate the data so Florida would seem like it would be better than it actually is. We're going to talk about the reopening of the schools and what I think, is wrong with that decision. And going to do a lot of comparison. So if most people haven't seen this video right here of Ron DeSantis talking, and this was a while back when the cases started coming, he was pretty much puffing his chest to try to say that Florida's not going to be bad, it's not going to get worse than New York and all these other states. But I want you guys to hear this, and before I go on.
Our data is available. Our data is transparent. In fact, Dr. Birx has talked multiple times about how Florida has the absolute best data. So any insinuation otherwise is just typical partisan narrative trying to be spun. And part of the reason is that because you got a lot of people in your profession who waxed poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. Just like Italy, wait 2 weeks. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened. Not only do we have a lower death rate, well, we have way lower deaths generally. We have a lower death rate than the Acela Corridor, D.C., everyone up there. We have a lower death rate than the Midwest, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. But even in our region, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida has the lower death rate. And I was the #1 landing spot from tens of thousands of people leaving the #1 hot zone in the world to come to my state. So we've succeeded, and I think that people just don't want to recognize it because it challenges their narrative, it challenges their assumption, so they got to try to find a boogeyman. Maybe it's that there are black helicopters circling the Department of Health. If you believe that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you.
Last question.
Okay, there he is, basically puffing his chest out because he isn't taking this seriously. And as you all know, the results now is totally different. I believe he just failed to take action because he didn't want to close none of the beaches. It took him so long to make all these decisions, and people in Florida at the time were pretty much suffering, and coming up with these COVID-19 cases. Now, I wanted to show you the data this is from the Florida's COVID-19 data. And I'm going to show you this one compared to the one from the scientist who was fired because she didn't want to manipulate the data. Okay, this one, Florida cases, says that there are 223,783 cases. Out of that, there's positive residents, it says 220,492. Hospitalizations, 16,758. Right now, the deaths in Florida go from 3,889. Non-residents deaths is at 102. So we're going to show this tab is from the testing site. As of today, is this number 2,322,389 people were tested in Florida. Out of that is 223,783. Should be the same right there, total cases. And here's the negative ones right there. Now, I live in Clay County, which is right here, and Duval is up here. This is the area that I'm speaking of right now. Now, I'm going to show you the site from the scientist who was told to manipulate the data. Her numbers are much different than what the Florida one says. She says there's 234,388 cases. See, different. 9,989 cases are new today. In the hospital, roughly 17,000. Deaths, almost 4,000. Available ICU beds, 1,214. Now, if you don't know who I'm talking about, this scientist, I'm going to show you this link right here. Fired Florida data scientist launches a coronavirus dashboard of her own. This was in June 14th. It says Rebecca Jones was fired last month from her job at the Florida Department of Health, where she helped create a data portal about the state's COVID-19 cases. Now she has created her own dashboard of her own. It says that she was originally tasked with building essentially the same type of dashboard for the health department's website in her role as the Geographic Information System Manager, until it became clear what the results would show. When I went to, quote, she says, when I went to show them what the report card would say for each county, among other things, they asked me to delete the report card because it showed that no counties pretty much were ready for reopening, she says, and they didn't want to draw attention to that. Jones says as a superior asked her to open up the data and alter the numbers so that the state's coronavirus positivity rating would change from 18% to 10%, and the state would appear to meet its target to reopen. So right there, that is very unethical, because you don't manipulate data to try to make everything seem good and score political points. Now, I'm currently taking my behavioral statistics course, and I know for a fact that you do not manipulate data, because lives are depending on this data, because the data, when it's uncorrupted, is the facts, it's the truth. So when you have government officials telling you to manipulate the data, right there is very unethical, and it's I just couldn't believe that they would ask someone, a scientist, to do that. But there's probably worse things going on. Now, Florida still not reporting how many hospitalized with COVID. DeSantis won't say why, and this was July 7th, which was yesterday. Under the pressure last week as COVID-19 hospitalizations soared in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis said the state would start reporting daily hospital data for all 67 counties. He did not respond to follow-up questions from CNN correspondent Rosa Perez as why the state does not publish daily hospital data. They don't want to publish it because they don't want the public to see what I believe to be the truth. Now, remember that video? He was pretty much saying that they're saying Florida's going to be the next hot spot. Florida's not going to be the next New York or whatever. Well, Florida is rising and rising every day. Now, the Department of Education is saying that we should open up our schools, which is idiotic. I'm telling you, it's stupid. You got parents out here that are worried about their kids going back to school with the Florida cases rising, but even our own Florida Department of Education secretary said that the schools need to be reopened next month. See, they don't care about that. They just want to get everything back to normal. And that's another thing that I'm talking about, man. Americans, we are so quick to try to get back to normal that we are willing to take a risk on our own personal safety and that of others, just so that we can have a sense of normality. We go back to normal. Now, if you don't know, for Florida, there are more than 11,000 children test positive for coronavirus. Now, that's in like 4 main counties, and those are Broward, Dade, which is in Miami, Palm Beach, and Hillsborough. So you got 11,000 children right now that have tested positive for coronavirus in Florida. These are kids that are going to school with your kids, elementary, middle school, high school. I believe they had the ages up to here. 17, 16, and 11-year-old boy have died from the virus already. So imagine that could be your kid that's already passed from this virus. And yet our officials are saying, open back up the schools, all the schools in Florida, get those kids back to school. Now, I have friends who are saying there's no way in hell they are sending their kids back to school. Many of my friends have already started homeschooling their kid because they are not taking the risk of their child getting this virus and, possibly passing away. Now, some of the questions I had for some of these officials who wanted to make this decision is, what is the plan for reopening? Because they don't have a plan right now. All they have is saying, there's an article that I read a while back, and the Duval board of officials came up with this brilliant idea that said, hey, let's put plastic barriers between each chair so that the kids won't get the virus, or the virus won't spread to them. So by them saying that, there's no study done that says these barriers are going to protect these kids. It's nothing like that. Some millionaires, someone just became rich because now they are contracted to put all these plastic barriers between the chairs in all these schools. Someone's about to get paid. And my other question was, how do you keep those kids separated in the cafeteria? Now, I worked at elementary school, and when you take them kids to lunch, the tables are about the size of my desk right here. And you got maybe like 6 kids lined up sitting down, eating, talking, just yelling and having fun with each other. Germs are spreading. They don't answer that question. How are you going to keep those kids separated in the hallways? When I was an elementary school teacher, before class, the kids sat very close to each other in the hallway because you only had so much room. How are you going to keep them separated, basically when they're doing recess? When they're out there playing on the playground, are you going to cut out their recess? Are you going to come up with a system that only allows one person to go on that playground? These are questions that the school needs to answer before parents send their kids back to school. That is the most idiotic thing I ever heard, especially when you have 11,000 kids who have tested positive for this virus and our officials want to send them back to school. It's just crazy. And it's going to get worse, man. I pray, man, I hope someone up there has the balls or something that says, hey, this is stupid. We're not going to do this. And right now there are states getting together to sue the Department of Education secretary and her organization because she's the main one behind that, her and the president, of opening these schools. And, I care about all these kids, man. And when I see 11,000 kids tested positive and they want to open the school, it's just going to get worse, man. It's going to get worse. How's it in you guys' state? Anybody else from Florida, Duval, Jacksonville, city? What are they doing? What you got any plans for your kids? How are they going to go back to school? What do you think about the schools reopening? How's your state's COVID-19 doing? But right now, man, it's sad, and it's only going to get worse until we get some people in charge that know what the hell they're doing. Y'all take care. Talk to you soon.